Hi everyone, my name is Brittany and I'm an educator at the St. Louis Zoo. Now you're probably going to notice that I'm wearing a mask today. I'm doing that to prevent the spread of COVID-19. However, since I'm not sharing space with anybody in my home, I'm going to be leading our webinar with my mask lowered just for the program. We're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of introduction slides. If you've joined us for webinars before, these are going to be the same slides that you see every time. If this is your first time joining, welcome. So before we get started, please go ahead and find the chat box and go ahead and put where you're from and how many people are watching today. I can see some of you already started. This is awesome. Welcome, welcome. You'll also notice another box that says Q&A, and that stands for questions and answers. So throughout today's webinar, if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please put them there. Just know I won't get to them till towards the end of the webinar. We do have a tech person today. His name is Connor, and he'll be helping us behind the scenes and helping to monitor the chat, just in case I don't see one of your questions or thoughts. At the end, we will also have a quick enjoyment poll, and we thank you so much for your feedback. Also, some community learning standards. We want to make sure that we are friendly and respectful to one another in all of our interactions in the chat box. And please use the question and answer box, as well as the chat box, for relevant and appropriate questions and interactions regarding today's topic. Also understand that Connor will be monitoring our webinar chat box. And if you're asked to alter any behavior, you may be removed from the webinar. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm so excited because this is our very first webinar episode in a series on animal habitats. And today we are going to be talking about rainforest, but more specifically, we are going to discuss tropical rainforest. There are actually different types of rainforest, and we only have enough time to go over one today. So with that, we're going to discuss why tropical rainforests are unique and some amazing animals that call this place home. I also have a surprise guest for you towards the end of the webinar. I'm really pumped to share with you today. But first, now I'm looking at our webinar chat box now. I'd like to know, how do you describe a rainforest? If your friend came up and asked, what's a rainforest? What would you tell them? And I'm looking at your answers now. I'm seeing rain, that it's hot, lots of green, lots of plants, animals, humid, wet forest, excellent. It looks like you guys know a lot about the rainforest already. So we're gonna go ahead and go over some of those main characteristics now. Now, a tropical rainforest habitat is gonna have really hot temperatures, and not just during a certain season. It's hot all year round. So if you live here in Missouri or Illinois, I saw a lot of you are from all over. If you have different seasons, if you lived in a rainforest, you would just have a really hot one. So no winter there. Temperatures are high. It's also very biodiverse. Now, biodiversity is the number of different species in an area. So it can even have high biodiversity or low biodiversity. And in the rainforest, it's really high. Rainforests have the most species of plants and animals compared to any other habitat in the world. They are so important for our planet. And of course, if you're a rainforest, you're gonna have rainfall. Now, rainforests can go through a dry season and a wet season, but overall, their annual or yearly rainfall is very high. And location. This is something that I always like to do when I'm learning about habitats, is learn where they're at on a map. So this is a world map, and you're going to see a yellow star. That's about the location where Missouri and Illinois area kind of is in that zone. And the green is marking all of our tropical rainforest area. Notice that it's more in the middle. There is an imaginary line that's right in the center that we call the equator. And at the equator, where we have our warm, habitats are hot, humid habitats. And that's why all the rainforests are right there. They don't have the seasons, which makes sense because as you go away from the equator, it gets colder. Think about the Arctic and Antarctica down here. So right in the middle, nice and hot. That's where we're going to be talking about today. And in the rainforest, there are 4 distinct layers. So we're going to go through each layer one at a time and kind of learn what makes each layer unique. Because the reason there are 4 layers is that they're not all the same. Starting with our forest floor. So we're going to start all the way at the bottom. Now, looking at this picture, you may notice some things. There's not as much green. Not a lot of plants growing, right? You see some, but you don't see a ton of small plants. And you notice maybe some squiggly branches. They might even kind of look like snakes. Those are called liana vines. This area down here doesn't get a lot of sunlight. Imagine all of those trees in the other layers are really stretching out, getting as much sun as they can on their leaves. So it's a little bit darker down here. All of the old leaves fall down, and the liana vines start at the ground just like our other trees, and they climb their way up. Now, something that's neat with animals that live here, these are just 2 examples. We have a Malayan horned frog. They get the name because of the little points on their eyes. They actually don't have horns. And we have a giant millipede. Now, our Malayan horned frog has an adaptation or characteristic or feature that helps it survive. How do you think that this frog survives? Go ahead and type in your chat box. What's something it can do to defend itself? It can jump, excellent. And the color. So the locomotion, I don't know if you've ever gotten near a frog and haven't seen it. They can jump very quick if they feel nervous. And that color for camouflage, excellent. They can hide. They blend in with those leaves really well. The same with our millipede. Now this is a species that's from Thailand, and you'll notice the coloration is very dark too. Now something that's really special about millipedes, it's not just that they have so many legs, but also they provide a really important rainforest service. Our millipede friends are known as decomposers, and decomposers can be animals, and they can also be types of fungi and bacteria. And what they do is they break down those old leaves, and maybe if an organism passes away, they will break down that material, return those nutrients back into the soil so the plants can use it. Now, knowing there's a lot of leaves falling, you would think the soil would have a lot of nutrients like a sponge, right? It would hold on to all of those recycled nutrients. But there are so many trees and plants growing in the rainforest that all those nutrients get absorbed really fast and it goes straight to the plants. So our decomposer friends are very busy, constantly recycling those nutrients. And it helps to provide for the trees, which makes a rainforest a rainforest. All right. Next, we're going to climb up to our next level. It's the understory. Now, with our understory layer, you will have some shorter plants, and they'll have larger leaves. They're trying to catch any light that they can. But it can be difficult because the canopy layer is a little bit wider. However, because the canopy layer is above it, it blocks a lot of sunlight and also a lot of wind. So down below, it's pretty still. It's humid and dark, which provides a great place for animals like jaguars to blend in and provides a really nice habitat for our next animal. This is our secret animal. I'll give you clues as to what it is. And because I know that you guys know a lot about animals, you might be able to guess it with just the first clue. But keep your chat box open. I'll be giving you clues. So this is our secret animal that's going to be using this rainforest layer. All right. Firstly, they have large ears. And these ears can help when listening for predators and staying safe. They also have stripes on their legs. How unique. And lastly, a brown body. They also reach up to get to their food. They like to eat leaves that are a little bit higher. Oh, I see a lot of you know what this animal is. And it can be a little tricky, I'll be honest. This animal kind of reminds me of a Dr. Seuss character. It's the okapi. In the okapi, you can see at the St. Louis Zoo, they have a brown body, which again makes sense because it's darker in the area where they're going to be moving. And while they will use the forest floor, their food is in the understory. Their necks are a little bit longer, which, oh, Gail, I like what you put, forest giraffe. That's a perfect description. The giraffe of the savanna habitat is actually their closest relative. Luckily for okapis, their necks are not that long. If their necks were any longer, they would start hitting branches in the rainforest. And I don't know about you, but that would be a little uncomfortable to have to like duck the whole time, right? That would be a lot of like moving your head up and down to move through the habitat. So their neck is the perfect length for the habitat in which they live. They also have a really long tongue to reach up high to find their leaves. Awesome, great job, guys. Next up, as we climb through our layers of the rainforest, we have our canopy. Now, what I like to think about with the canopy is it's almost like if you open an umbrella and the umbrella reaches out really long. If you need to do some stretching this morning, go ahead and imagine that your arms are an umbrella and you're going to reach up and then stretch out. All their branches are going out. Their leaves are trying to grab as much sun as it can. And it creates this umbrella over the understory and the forest floor. So the canopy is where a lot of our trees are stretching all the way out. Now in this area, because the rain and the sun is going to hit it, when rain, imagine if you get rained on and like your clothes get soaked and you feel really heavy. Well, the leaves, if they got a lot of rain, they don't want to drop or feel heavy because they want to keep gathering the sunlight. So what they have is the leaves are more glossy or waxy, and they have a tip at the end. So when rain falls, it'll trickle off, almost like a little waterfall. So it just trickles off. The leaves don't get heavy and fall. They can stay up and out. So that's kind of neat. Now we have another surprise animal. Our secret animal. What could this one be? All right, so make sure you have your chat box ready. Make sure your brains are ready. I think everyone's awake today. All right, so this animal is more reddish orange in color. The main diet is fruit. They are excellent at climbing, which makes sense if you're in a canopy. And a lot of you are already guessing. Awesome, awesome. Keep your guesses coming. And they're excellent climbers with not just their hands, but also their feet. Have you ever tried to climb a tree with your feet, with your toes? It's not always the easiest thing to do. All right, I see a lot of your guesses are coming in so fast, actually. If you guessed orangutan, you are correct. Now, there are many other animals that are great at climbing that can have reddish color too. So again, this is a really fun secret animal, and just know that like we're all learning together. This is an older photo, but one I really wanted to share with you to highlight how Sumatran orangutans, which are the orangutans that we have at the zoo, orangutans spend time with their moms. They spend many, many years with their moms, actually. This is Mira, our female orangutan. She just celebrated her birthday last month. And little Ginger, who is her daughter. Now, Ginger is now 5 years old, so she is not that small. And she's learned so much, and she continues to learn from Mira, so she's still not done. And they learn everything from how to move, how to build their nest, how to find their water, and what foods to eat, and how to eat them. So this is another photo of a young ginger learning about different foods. You can almost think about it like when we're young, or maybe you know someone who has a baby that's learning to eat certain foods too. So we learn a lot from our parents, and orangutans do as well. All right, if you guys are ready, we're gonna climb up to the last layer, so hopefully your arms aren't too tired yet. Here we go. We are now in the emergent layer. This is the tallest layer, the tallest of our trees. Just because the trees are tall, though, doesn't mean their branches are big. They're actually very skinny and very thin. The leaves are smaller too, because if you're closer to the sun, you lose water faster, so they don't want to lose a lot of water from their leaves. Now, if you're an animal that lives there, you're gonna have some features that help you so you don't fall down and so you don't break a branch. Most of the time, like some of our bird examples here, you're gonna fly or glide, or you'll just be small. Now, if you look really closely in our emergent layer picture, there's actually an animal. That is a gibbon. And something neat about our animals is that just because you see one in one area or one layer of the rainforest doesn't mean that's the only spot that it goes. Some animals use multiple layers and will move throughout to find different foods or to stay safe, or depending on where they like to rest. And I have a picture of an animal that I would like to share with you, or actually it's a bio fact. And I'm going to stop sharing so that way you guys can see it a little bit closer. So a quick fact about me, I've always loved rainforest, and ever since I was in second grade, this is how much I know I love rainforest. I used to always look in books and learn as much as I could. This was one of the first animals I remember learning about when I was a child with rainforest. It's called a blue morpho butterfly. Has anyone else seen blue morpho butterflies? If you've been to the insectarium, sometimes in the butterfly dome, we'll have some. So yes, many different animals call the rainforest layers home. And just because you see one in one layer doesn't mean that that's the only spot that it stays. There are differences between each one. All right, now is the time you've all been waiting for. It's time for our surprise guest. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull her up. And I guess the easiest way for you to see is I'm gonna have to stop sharing my screen again so you can see me bigger. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get her. Her name is Daphne. Let's see if you can see her. If you know what Daphne is, go ahead and type it in the chat box. We'll see, we're seeing half of her body. She's like in a really comfortable spot, but not the best for viewing. Oh, Miss Daphne. So she's in her home right now. Is, drum roll, a Madagascar hissing cockroach. I saw a lot of you mention cockroach, or I even see a sweet little hisser. That's such a good way to call her. And Madagascar hissing cockroaches are, as you can tell by their name, found in Madagascar. They're actually endemic to Madagascar, meaning they can only be found on that island. Now they're sometimes kept as pets, which is how I have Miss Daphne with me today to share with you. And they are decomposers, just like our millipede friends. So they are really important for the rainforest. Now we're gonna have a poll pull up though. Now, which part of the rainforest do you think she would be best at? So I gave you a clue. She does decompose, but looking at her body, maybe her color, where do you think she would best fit? And it's just where you think. Again, We're not looking for absolute correct answers. We're just looking for you to be engaged with us because we are always learning together. I know I'm still learning more every single day. We'll go ahead and give you a couple more moments so you can finalize your thoughts. Where would Miss Daphne's wild cousins like to live in the rainforest? What's the poll? It looks like a lot of you said our forest floor, and I would agree. However, they're also really good at climbing. It was kind of hard to see because Miss Daphne, like, she gets really comfortable when she's like up against things. So I don't want to disturb her. She's tucked in there so nice. But on their legs, and you can see with the picture, they do have what looks like little hairs, and they can help grip. So they can climb. They like to be under logs and leaves and hiding, and they're more nocturnal, which makes sense as to why Miss Daphne was resting when we met her earlier. All right. Another important topic is to talk about conservation and how we can help. Now, there are so many different topics. I only have time to go over one today. And one that's really near and dear to me is with palm oil. Maybe you've heard of palm oil. Maybe this is the first time you've heard of it. So I have a picture of a palm oil plant. So you can see the kernels, and it's kind of cut open a little bit. Now, palm oil itself is a crop and a resource for farmers in the same way that we have corn or soybeans grown here. So farming is a wonderful livelihood, not just in our country, but in many others, and it provides resources and money for community members so they can make a living. Now, this crop in particular, palm oil, grows really well in tropical areas, which sometimes means that rainforest habitat is altered or changed into farmland. Now, we can help, and it's as simple as downloading and using an app when you go shopping with your grown-ups, or if you're a grown-up, downloading that app and taking it along with you. So it looks like Connor put in a link if you want to learn more. Now, choosing sustainable palm oil products, which the app will help you do, is a really great way to support companies that are caring for our rainforest, and it has a less negative impact on the rainforest by choosing those products. I think about it almost like a game when shopping, and it'll help you to make better choices because palm oil's in a lot of different products, and we can always do a little bit here and there. And if everyone does a little, it has a really big impact. So take some time and learn a little bit more about palm oil. We have a final enjoyment poll coming up. I'd like to know your thoughts on our first webinar in the Habitat series, Tropical Rainforest. So please go ahead and let me know your thoughts now. And as we get ready to finalize the enjoyment poll, I'm gonna also look in our Q&A because I see I have quite a few questions. And I'm running low on time. I have so much fun teaching and learning with you guys. All right, what is the difference between black panthers and jaguars? Excellent question. So jaguars are the cats that you find in South America and also in Central America, and they have those spot patterns that kind of look a little bit like chocolate chip cookies. If you don't believe me, look up a picture. It changed the way that I figured out which is which of our spotted cats. Now, the difference is a black panther is a jaguar, only it is the opposite of an animal that has no pigment, which you think about as albino. A black panther or just a jaguar is a melanistic jaguar. Melanistic means that it has an overproduction. It has a lot of pigment. So they appear to be all one color, but they actually still have spot patterns. So it's a really neat thing. Again, just the opposite of albinism, where an animal has no pigment and is white. Excellent. And let's see. Do animals live in the rainforest need a lot of water to survive? It just depends, because there are aquatic species that will need water as part of their home, but it can be about the same. Now, they have adaptations so that they can survive in a wet, humid climate, whereas some animals are more adapted for climates that are dry, like our deserts. So it just kind of depends. So it's not necessary that they need more water to survive, but their bodies and the way they move and find shelter in the foods that they eat, all kind of play in part. So they're just adapted or able to survive there better. Okay, and I have time for one more. So do monkeys live in the canopy layer? Yes, they do. There are so many different species of primates. Primates are like one of my favorite groups to talk about, along with snakes too. And that would be like a whole nother webinar. So maybe I'll plan a primates webinar because it sounds like I saw other questions about primates. And I think that would be a really fun one to discuss. So I'm gonna keep that in mind. The zoo is really excited and looking forward to welcoming you all back starting June 13th. Now be sure to sign up for a free timed reservation and bring your mask. And if you want to learn more about this, about the zoo reopening, or some of our amazing rainforest animals that we have at the zoo, please visit our website at STLZOOM.org. This is our first episode of our webinar series, Habitat. We have 4 total, so we have 3 more coming up. Every Wednesday at 10, we'll be doing this for the next 3 weeks, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining me today and learning about tropical rainforests, and I look forward to Zooming with you all again very soon. Have a wonderful day.